Andrew Clennell, Political Editor, certainly shaking his head there at that prospect. Ash Gillen, my fellow Afternoon Agenda host, and Kieran Gilbert, our Chief News Anchor. Very Thursday afternoon vibes. Ash with a few booted out and then sort of, a bit of a vote on the member no longer being heard. But basically, it does sum up an interesting week.
It does, and the fact that the Prime Minister wanted it to go for so long today perhaps tells you that he's pretty happy to keep talking this week. The government's won the week. They've won the policy debate at this point on the tax backflip. They've won on the IR with the changes going through as well. The coalition, I think, struggled to land too many big blows on the government over the tax backflip, and they were distracted by that documentary, which we heard a bit of an allusion to at the end there.
Yeah, I think every Labor MP's been clocking up hours on that and maybe swapping notes and the best quotes, Andrew, because we had a lot of mentions of it. But how did you feel things ended?
Well, it's the government's week, but it's only 1 week. And they've gone to war with business with this right to disconnect and the IR legislation. So that's still to play out, really. Even now they're trying to mop things up. I've had the tip, Tom, that the Greens amendment would allow for jail penalties for employers who didn't allow that right to disconnect or breached a stop order. Tony Burke's now circulated an amendment to that, trying to strike it out. But there's still going to be fines if they breach stop orders of up to $18,000, as we revealed on the program yesterday. So it's pretty heavy stuff. It really is the biggest IR reform we've seen for more than a decade, because the coalition didn't touch IR after the disastrous 2007 Work Choices election. And it's funny, we started the week on tax cuts, now we're into IR. From the government's point of view, they're going to say, we're for the workers. That's what we believe in, we're for and the opposition isn't. And they've got they're trying to wedge the opposition on both fronts, basically. But you want to be careful with these sort of things, because as this rolls out, it might end up wedging the government a bit if they go to war on business. Sometimes
Success hurts you, doesn't it? If you're really successful in the Senate. Christian Porter failed. Maybe that shielded the coalition when he tried to do this. Tony Burke's been successful. Kieran, I guess we'll see how it plays out in the electorate, and there'll be a lot of debate around the health of the economy when we get to the next election as well.
The ultimate example of that is the historical example that Andrew points to, and that is that John Howard, be careful what you wish for. He got control of the Senate, and then we resulted in Work Choices, and then he lost his seat. They lost government. So that's a perfect example, I think, historically, of what you're talking about. As for the overall political equation right now, yes, it's shifted back at the moment, but from a position where the government really was in a bit of a funk, that Anthony Albanese was a bit punch drunk at the end of last year, and they've shifted it back, but I think we don't want to overstate it right now. Yes, in the lead up to Dunkley, they've got it back on an even keel. There are still a few things and variables at play. Lots to depend on how the economy goes, on rates. A year before the next election, minimum, probably more. We're looking at March of next year. Yes, they've had a good week, but I think Anthony Albanese would not be. He wouldn't be complacent off the back of a week. They've just got things back on track, basically.
You discount November, December option for an election. You don't think he'll do that?
He is someone that, if you go back and look at everything he's said, barring the tax cuts, I should say.
Well, there you go. There's always one, isn't there?
He's broken that rule. But other than the tax cuts, he's said he'll go full term. And he's a bit of a traditionalist in those things. He might prove me wrong. He might prove me wrong. He might go November, December. I think more likely, I'd be thinking March.
If somehow interest rate cuts start really early and there's 3 or 4 by then, who knows? But
and if the numbers are good, he'll get pressure from his own backbenchers to go.
Look, every single time, if it's looking good, they'll consider it. We know that.